Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. This is my year in review. A whole year of reading books. How many did I read? 130. Some of them were short. My favorite book was 900 pages. But in total, I read 130 books. And I want to give you some of my high points today. I may do a later video on some of my low points, but my high points are how I want to start this new year. I made this video last night and I wasn't vibing it. I was too distracted. I was trying to read off of a spreadsheet and I wasn't feeling it. Yesterday was not the best day for me. But by the end of the year, it was amazing. And yeah, this year is going to be incredible. And I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So, how I'm going to do this is I have 10 authors, 10 new authors that I discovered this year. And we're going to talk about those 10 authors and the books that they wrote that I loved. There are a couple of one-offs that I read that I didn't include, like Tessa Bailey's not included in my top 10 authors. And the reason for that, even though I loved Once Upon a Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker, is because that's all I really read by her. I read My Killer Vacation and it only got 3.5 stars. So I haven't read enough by her just because 2 books were amazing. They didn't floor me enough, even though they broke my September no read, that I had to go out and buy everything she wrote. I read 12 Freida McFadden books last year. 12. That's an author that changed the game for me. Okay? So, 10 authors newly discovered this year that blew my mind and what they wrote. Because obviously, I cannot go into depth on 130 books in a 20-minute video. I can't do it. We're going to start in January. These are kind of going to go as I read them throughout the year. So in January, I read A Court of Mist and Fury. Now, yes, technically, I read the first book, A Court of Thorn and Roses, in December of 2021. But I still have Sarah J. Maas on my 2022 best of because I didn't love A Court of Thorn and Roses. It was good, but I did not like the main male character, Tamlin. There was something about him that I didn't like. He was not helping her in the situation that she was in with the Queen Under the Mountain at the end of the first book. And I was just like, if this is our love interest, I'm out. I'm out. But there was something that kept me there. And then I remember seeing either a TikTok or an Instagram post or something that was like, if you read A Court of Thorn and Roses and didn't love it, but loved Feyre, read the next book. Don't give up on it. So the first book I read of the year was A Court of Mist and Fury, which is book 2. And oh yeah, I'm so glad I didn't give up on it, because Tamlin gets left in the dust, which he rightfully so should have. And Rhys, Daddy Rhys, stands up and she becomes the Lady of the Night Court. Because we love a man that shows up, right? And Rhys does. Rhysland shows up for her where Tamlin was not. Tamlin was about to let her die under that mountain, okay? So, love that. Binged just about everything that Sarah J. Maas has. So she's my first author that we loved this year. Finished everything in that A Court of Thorn and Roses series. Finished 2 of her Crescent City books. That's all that's out so far. I almost like Crescent City a little more than I like A Court of Thorn and Roses. Shoot me. Read the first book in the Assassin's Blade. No, Assassin's Blade is the name of it. It's the Throne of Glass series. Assassin's Blade is the first book that I read. It's good, and I will probably read that series this year. It's an emotional one. Like, it's one of those where, like, don't get attached because everybody gonna die. And I just wasn't in the headspace for it when I read the first one. So I was like, yeah, we're not going to continue this. So yeah, that was that. But love Sarah J. Maas. Read 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7 of her books this year. And she's my first author that I discovered in 2022 that I love. Number 2 is Freida McFadden. 12 of her books. I have read every single book this woman has on Kindle Unlimited. She's a thriller writer. Usually pretty short, like 300 pages thrillers. Absolutely love them. Like, you know, some of them you see the ending coming, most of them you don't. I just am a huge fan. I'm a big fan of twists and turns and whodunits. You guys know that. That's probably my favorite genre. Though I did discover a new genre this year, which we will talk about later in the video. But yeah, thrillers are like my top most favorite genre. Nobody does it better than... Okay, let me correct that. Nobody did it better for me this year than Freida McFadden. You guys know I love Ruth Ware. But I only read 1 book by her this year because I'm all caught up on everything she's written. I read The It Girl and One by One. That's a lie. I read 2 books by her this year. And, I love her too. I love my thrillers because there's going to be more thriller authors coming up. Emily Henry. We read in April, March, right before we went to Disney. We read Emily Henry's, what was the first one I read? People We Meet on Vacation. So fucking good. Like, just outstanding. And I quickly binged everything she had. Book Lovers, Beach Read, and People We Meet on Vacation. All 3 by Emily Henry, read by me this year. She is my number 3 author that I discovered this year that I loved. In April, I discovered my girl Ali Hazelwood. You guys know, if you watched my December review, how much I love Ali Hazelwood's STEM-based romances. I just love them. Love Hypothesis was the first one I read in April. Then came around and read it like September, October timeframe. Love on the Brain, which was newly released. I read her 3 novellas in December. If Ali Hazelwood read it, I'm going to read it. Sorry, if Ali Hazelwood wrote it, I'm going to read it. Just going to. She's brilliant. I love it. Is it quirky? Is it kind of the same story every time? A little bit. Who cares? It's good. It's hot guys that are smart and hot girls that are smart that fall in love. It's cool. I like it. It speaks to me. My coffee is hitting this morning, so I apologize if I keep drinking it. It's really good this morning. What else do we got? Ali Hazelwood was my 4th author that I loved and fell in love with this year. Brandon Sanderson. I read Mistborn in August, I believe. August or September, I read Mistborn. Had been putting it off for a little while because I knew I was going to want to like read everything when I read it. And it was so good. I read 4 Brandon Sanderson books last year. I read the Mistborn Era 3 and then Secret Histories at the end of the year. I will be reading a lot more Brandon Sanderson in the coming year. He's got a huge library of books. So yeah, we'll be reading more Brandon Sanderson for sure. In October, I discovered a new passion, if you would, for monster romance. Right? We read The Dragon's Bride, and it took us out. The Dragon's Bride took us out. So Katie Robert. Had never read anything by Katie Robert until this year. I read 3 or 4 of her books now. Kraken's Sacrifice, Vampire Court. I read a few of her books this year. she introduced me to a new genre that I was not into and I didn't think I would like. And she was like the gateway drug, if you would, to C.M. Nacosta, who is my 6th author that I discovered this year. C.M. Nacosta blew my mind with the monster smut that could be wholesome, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know if it does, but the Milking Farm book that we read was, you can look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. I did a whole video on it. Her Glory Milking Farm book was smutty, but also super wholesome, and that is kind of the vibe of C.M. Nacosta. Is the smut is good, but the wholesomeness is there too, and I love that. Love it. I read 1, 2, 3, 4 C.M. Nacosta books between October and December because I liked them. Shockingly. I don't know. I wasn't expecting to like them. But hey, don't hate on it if you're into it, right? That makes C.M. Nacosta number 6, I believe. Sarah J. Maas, Emily Henry, Ali Hazelwood, Frida McFadden, Brandon Sanderson, Katie Robert, C.M. Nacosta. She was 7. Number 8. I love, and it was my favorite book of the year. If you were wondering in this what my favorite book of the year was, Samantha Shannon's Priory of the Orange Tree. So I'm going to give Samantha Shannon my number 8. I know I said that I wasn't going to do authors who I only loved one book. But the problem is Samantha Shannon only has one book for me to read. And because it's 900 pages, and it was my favorite book of the year, I would be cheating myself for not including Samantha Shannon in this, even though I've only read one book. Because she's, the piece of work, the body of work was so good that it has to be included. Come on now. Like, you have to include it, even though it's one book. So I broke my own rule, but that's okay, because Priory of the Orange Tree is that good. If you like fantasy, read Priory. Is it big and intimidating? Yes. Is it worth the squeeze? Yes. Number 9, we're going back to thrillers, is going to be Alex Michaelides. I believe that's how you say his last name. I read his The Silent Patient, and then I read his The Maidens. Both of them were phenomenal. I have a thing, an alert, for whenever he drops a book. That's how good it was. I love it. And in the same vein, Alex Finlay. I read his The Night Shift, and then Every Last Fear, back to back, the first 2 books of December. I read them in 2 days, the 2 books. Freaking mind-blowing. So freaking good. I mean, those 2 guys have me in a chokehold with their thrillers right now. Absolutely. I have an 11th one. I know I said I was going to do 10. By now you should know I break all the rules. But I have an 11th author I was sitting here thinking about. Patricia Briggs. I read her series, her Mercy Thompson series, and her Alpha and Omega. I have a few books to finish the series. Is freaking amazing stuff. If you like werewolves and vampires and that kind of thing, incredible stuff. Absolutely loved it. I've got multiple videos on her work on here from this year. I'm trying to think of some standouts for the year that maybe weren't part of that author list. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rudecka, I think is his name. So good. There was a couple of people that I suggested Hidden Pictures to because it was so good. Oh my gosh, what is the name of the book? I can name the characters. The tavern one with the orc. I have to know it. Give me a second. Legends and Lattes. Legends and Lattes. I know if my friend Kay is watching this, she's gonna like be screaming, how did you forget that one? I'm sorry, y'all. I have 130 books in this noggin running through right now trying to remember the names of all of them. I didn't do notes because in the video that I posted last night and then watched and then deleted, I had notes. I had a whole spreadsheet and I did not like the vibe of the video. It looked like me reading off of a spreadsheet all of the books that I had read this year, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like it. So I deleted that one. You're getting a fresh one today. Legends and Lattes. Awesome, awesome book. I also read the first 3 or 4 books of the Barbarian Planet books, remember? That was kind of my first pinky toe into monster romance. They were aliens. But, yeah, they were good. I read 3 or 4 of those books. So what is my reading goal for 2023? I don't have one. I went into 2022 with a 100 book reading goal, which I met in November with the Poppy Wars. I would like to finish that series in 2023, I think. But the reason I set that goal for 2022 is because I was in a reading slump. I only read like 30 something books in 2021, which is a lot for a normal person, but not a lot for a crazy person like me. And that told me like how much time I was spending on social media and things like that. So 2022 I needed to make a goal, which was 100 books, which I did surpass. In 2023 I'm not making a reading goal. Does that mean I don't think I'm going to read 100 books? No. I can assure you I will probably most definitely read at least 100 books in 2023. That just means I'm not setting myself up for this expectation because I already know what I'm capable of. And 2021 was such a bad year and a crazy year that I needed that goal in 2022. I no longer need that goal. I have a flow and I am good. So I'm not setting a reading goal for 2023. I will probably read 100 and something books. But if I don't meet 100 because I am working or I have a 2-week vacation in July and I barely don't make 100, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. And I'm not going to set like a 200 book goal because I don't want to let my own self down with some astronomical number, if that makes sense. So my goals are to continue to grow this channel. I've gained like 50, 60 followers this year. That's amazing. That's incredible to me. That means so much. So many of you have come over from other channels that I've done podcasts on or whatever, and I appreciate that. So if you subscribe this year, you are my bestie. I appreciate you. I would love to continue to grow the channel. I would love to get to a point where we could do lives or something like that. That'd be amazing. I think that would be so much fun to do, like, live reading things. So that is my goal for 2023. Consistently continuing to put out 2 videos a week. Trying to make them consistently on Mondays and Wednesdays. But obviously on holidays that changes things. And just spending more time with you guys. I really, really enjoy talking about the books that I read. I hope that you enjoy watching them. And I hope any goals you have for 2023, that you meet them and are at least working towards them. If you don't meet them, that's okay, as long as you worked towards them. I love you guys so much, and here's to an incredible year. Cheers.